I stepped off my Gulfstream G650 at Silverton Regional Airport, designer sunglasses shielding my eyes from the afternoon sun, and saw them standing by the chain-link fence. My father, mother, and brother Marcus, frozen like statues, staring at the woman they'd thrown away 12 years ago walking across the tarmac like she owned it. Because, technically, I did own part of this airport. Along with the jet. And half the commercial district they were probably parked near. The last time they'd seen me, I was 19, sobbing on their doorstep with 2 suitcases and $47 in my checking account, begging my father to reconsider. He'd slammed the door in my face because I'd refused to drop out of college to work at his failing furniture store. Now I was 31, worth $340 million, and they looked like they'd seen a ghost. I wasn't here for them. I was here for the Reynolds Medical Center ribbon-cutting ceremony, where I was the primary donor. But the look on my father's face as he watched me descend those jet stairs in a custom Armani suit, flanked by my assistant and security? That was just a bonus. Let me take you back to where this story really begins. 12 years ago, I was a sophomore at Crestmont University, studying biomedical engineering on a partial scholarship. I was home for Thanksgiving break, excited to tell my family about the research opportunity I'd been offered with Dr. Helena Voss, one of the top researchers in regenerative medicine. My father, Richard Donovan, ran Donovan's Fine Furniture in Mill Creek, a mid-sized town about 40 miles from the university. The store had been in our family for 2 generations, and it was his pride and joy. Even though it had been losing money for 3 years straight. That Thanksgiving dinner, everything changed. "I need help at the store," Dad said, carving the turkey with authoritative precision. "Real help. Elena, I need you to take a semester off, maybe 2, and come work full-time. I'll pay you decent money. You can go back to school later when things stabilize." I set down my fork. "Dad, I can't do that. I have this incredible research opportunity starting in January. Dr. Voss specifically chose me. I didn't ask if you wanted to. I'm telling you what needs to happen. This family has sacrificed for that expensive education of yours. Now it's time you sacrifice for the family." My mother, Diane, nodded along like she always did. My younger brother Marcus, 17 at the time, smirked from across the table. He'd already declared college wasn't for him, and was working at the store, earning Dad's approval in ways I never could. "This is my future," I said carefully. "This research could lead to my PhD program." "Your future?" Dad's voice rose. "Your future is here. With this family. With this business that's put food on your table your entire life. You think you're too good for honest work now? It's not about being too good. It's about you being selfish. I'm giving you a simple choice, Elena. You come home and help save this business, or you can figure out your fancy future on your own." The room went silent. Mom looked at her plate. Marcus watched with barely concealed glee. "That's not fair," I said, voice shaking. "You're asking me to throw away everything I've worked for. I'm asking you to be part of this family. Apparently, that's too much to ask. Dad, please. Can't we find another solution? I can help on weekends." "No. You're either in or you're out. Choose." I looked at my mother, hoping for support. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "I choose my education," I said quietly. My father stood up. "Then get out of my house." "Richard," Mom started. I said, "Get out. If you're not going to help this family when we need you, then you're not part of this family. Pack your things and leave. You've got 1 hour." I looked around the table. Marcus was smiling. Mom was crying silently but making no move to defend me. And Dad was standing there, face red with rage, waiting. I left. I packed 2 suitcases with essentials. I took the $600 in cash I'd saved from my campus job. I left behind the laptop they'd bought me because Dad said if I wasn't with the family, I didn't deserve family gifts. I called my roommate Jenna, who let me crash in our dorm over Thanksgiving. I cried for 2 days straight. Then I got angry. Not the hot, explosive kind. The cold, calculating kind that makes you stop crying and start planning. I called Dr. Voss and confirmed the research position. I picked up 2 more part-time jobs. I applied for every scholarship and grant I could find. I took out student loans I swore I'd pay back. And I made a promise to myself, I would become so successful that my father would regret this moment for the rest of his life. For the first 2 years, I heard nothing from them. No calls, no emails, nothing. My mother sent a birthday card the first year with $20 inside and a note, "Hope you're doing well. Love, Mom." No mention of Dad. No invitation home. The second year, nothing at all. I threw myself into my studies with ferocious intensity. I graduated summa cum laude. Got accepted into a prestigious PhD program at Harrington Institute with full funding. Published my first paper at 23. And I met Dr. James Chin, a postdoc who became my mentor, collaborator, and eventually my co-founder. We were working on biomaterial scaffolds for tissue regeneration. Groundbreaking but theoretical. Until we figured out how to make it practical. At 25, we filed our first patent. At 26, we started Regentech Solutions with $50,000 we'd scraped together and maxed out credit cards. At 27, we got our first major investor. At 28, we closed Series B funding for $40 million. At 29, our technology was being used in hospitals nationwide. At 30, we were acquired by a major medical conglomerate for $850 million. My share, $340 million. I'd gone from sleeping on friends' couches to being one of the youngest self-made multimillionaires in the biomedical field. And my family had no idea. I'd changed my phone number. Wasn't on social media. Published under my married name after a brief marriage that ended amicably. My success was in industry journals my family would never read. To them, I was probably some struggling PhD student still mad about Thanksgiving. They had no idea I'd built an empire from the ashes of their rejection. Then fate brought me back to Mill Creek. Silverton Regional Hospital contacted me about a major expansion. They were building a new medical research wing and looking for donors. When I saw the location was 40 miles from my childhood home, I almost said no. But then I thought about all those nights wondering if my father was right. If I was selfish. If I'd made the wrong choice. I decided it was time to come home. Not to reconcile. But to show them exactly what they'd thrown away. I donated $15 million. Enough to name the research wing after Dr. Helena Voss, the woman who'd given me a chance when my family wouldn't. The hospital invited me to the ribbon cutting. I accepted. And I decided to arrive in style. The private jet was excessive. But where was the drama and subtlety? I wanted them to see. I wanted the whole town to see. So I chartered the Gulfstream, wore my most expensive suit, and timed my arrival when half the town would be gathering. What I hadn't expected was for my family to be at the airport. Marcus worked part-time at the fixed base operator. He'd seen my name on the flight manifest. Called Dad. And they'd come to see if it was really me. Now here we were. Me stepping off a multi-million-dollar jet. Them behind a fence, looking like their world had tilted. I could have walked past. Pretended I didn't see them. But I didn't. I walked toward the fence. My father looked older. Grayer. Smaller than the giant who'd loomed over my teenage years. Mom looked nervous. Marcus looked stunned. I stopped 10 feet away, sunglasses still on. Elena? Dad's voice cracked. Is that really you? It's Dr. Donovan now, I said pleasantly. Dr. Elena Donovan Chin. Though most people in the industry just call me Dr. Chin. You're a doctor? Mom's voice was small. PhD in biomedical engineering from Harrington Institute. Published researcher. Former CEO of Regentech Solutions. Current board member of 3 biotech companies and primary donor to the new Reynolds Medical Center research wing. I smiled. You know, the career I built after you kicked me out for choosing education over furniture sales. The words landed like stones. Elena, sweetheart, we didn't, Mom started. Kick me out? I'm pretty sure, get out of my house, were Dad's exact words. Right before he gave me 1 hour to pack. Dad's face had gone pale. I was angry. The store was failing. I thought. You thought I owed you my future because you'd done the bare minimum of feeding your own child. You thought my dreams were worth less than your pride. We didn't know you'd do so well, Marcus said, immediately regretting it. I turned to my brother. No, you didn't. Because you never bothered to find out. Not one phone call in 12 years. Not one email. Not one attempt to see if I was alive or dead. You just wrote me off. The store closed, Dad said suddenly. 3 years after you left. We lost everything. I already knew. I'd kept tabs even though they never had. The bankruptcy. Lost house. Marcus still living with them. Dad working at a hardware store for 9 years. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, and meant it. Not guilt. Just empathy they'd never shown me. Are you? Dad's voice had an edge. Defense mechanism. Because you seem pretty happy about how well you've done. I am happy. I worked my ass off for it. Earned every degree, every patent, every dollar without a single cent from the family that threw me away. I'm not here to gloat, Dad. I'm here for a ceremony. You're the ones who showed up. We wanted to see if it was really you, Mom said. Marcus saw your name and we had to know. Well, now you know. I checked my Patek Philippe. If you'll excuse me, I have a ribbon to cut. I turned toward the waiting Mercedes. Elena, wait. Dad's voice stopped me. Can we talk? Really talk? After the ceremony? There's so much we need to say. I looked back at him. The man who'd once been my hero, who'd made me feel worthless for choosing my own path. What could you possibly say that would matter now? That I was wrong. That I'm sorry. That I've thought about that Thanksgiving every day for 12 years. That I want my daughter back. I stood there, feeling nothing. The words I'd once desperately wanted now landed flat. Empty. Too late. You don't want your daughter back, I said quietly. You want access to what your daughter became. There's a difference. That's not fair. Neither was telling a 19-year-old that choosing her education made her not family. But here we are. I got in the Mercedes. As it pulled away, I looked back. 3 people who'd once been my whole world, now strangers who happened to share my DNA. And I felt nothing but relief that I'd proven the most important thing: I didn't need them. I never had. They'd thrown me away thinking I was disposable. I'd become invaluable. And that was the most perfect revenge I could have ever designed. My name is Dr. Elena Donovanchin. I'm 31 years old. I'm worth $340 million. And the family that kicked me out for saying no to their demands just watched me step off my private jet, realizing too late that the daughter they discarded had become the woman they could never reach. The ribbon-cutting ceremony was perfect. Mayor Thompson gave a speech about community investment. Dr. Helena Voss, now in her 70s, cried when she saw her name on the building. The hospital director thanked me profusely, and I smiled for photos with dignitaries and local press. My family stood in the back of the crowd. I could feel their eyes on me the entire time. When the ceremony ended, I was surrounded by people wanting to shake my hand, take photos, discuss future partnerships. I was gracious, professional, giving each person my full attention while being acutely aware of 3 figures hovering at the edge of the crowd, waiting. Finally, the crowd thinned. My assistant, Caroline, whispered that the car was ready whenever I was. I nodded, then turned to face the inevitable. They approached slowly, like people approaching something fragile that might shatter. Or maybe something dangerous that might bite. Elena. My mother's voice was tentative. That was a beautiful ceremony. What you've done here, it's incredible. Thank you. Awkward silence. None of them seemed to know what to say next. Good. Let them struggle. Can we buy you dinner? Dad finally asked. There's a nice restaurant downtown. We could catch up, talk properly. I have a flight back to Boston in 2 hours. Tomorrow then? Or this weekend? We're only 40 minutes away. We could drive up whenever works for you. I looked at the three of them. My father, who'd thrown me out rather than support my dreams. My mother, who'd let it happen. My brother, who'd enjoyed watching me fall. Why? I asked simply. Why what? Why do you want to have dinner with me? What exactly is there to catch up on? You made it clear 12 years ago that I wasn't part of the family unless I did what you wanted. I didn't do what you wanted. So what's changed? We were wrong, Mom said, tears starting. We were so wrong, Elena. We've regretted it every day since. Have you? I looked directly at my father. Did you regret it the first year, when I sent you a Christmas card with my new address and you never responded? Did you regret it the second year, when I graduated with honors and you weren't there? Did you regret it when I got engaged, had a wedding, got divorced, and you knew nothing about any of it because you never once picked up the phone? Dad's jaw tightened. You could have called too. I was the child. You were the parent. You threw me out. The burden of reconnection wasn't on me. You were 19, not a child. Old enough to be kicked out but not old enough to deserve an apology? Which is it, Dad? He had no answer for that. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Look, Elena, we get it. We messed up. Dad messed up. But that was 12 years ago. People change. We've changed. Can't we move past it? Move past it, I repeated. Interesting phrase. Move past the trauma of being disowned by my family? Move past 12 years of silence? Move past building my entire life from nothing because the people who were supposed to support me chose not to? I smiled without warmth. Tell me, Marcus, what exactly have you changed? Last I heard, you're still living with Mom and Dad, still working part-time jobs, still coasting through life. So what's different except that now you know I'm rich? His face flushed. That's not fair. You're right. It's not fair. None of this is fair. But it is what it is. So that's it? Dad's voice rose. You're just going to throw us away? After one mistake? One mistake. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You didn't accidentally kick me out, Dad. You didn't mistakenly choose your failing business over your daughter's education. You didn't inadvertently ignore me for 12 years. Those were choices. Deliberate, repeated choices. And now you're experiencing the consequences of those choices. We're your family, Mom pleaded. That has to mean something. It did mean something. It meant everything to me. Until the day you taught me it meant nothing to you. I started to walk away again, and this time it was Marcus who stopped me. You know what your problem is? His voice was bitter. You're so busy being the victim that you can't see we're trying to make things right. Yeah, Dad kicked you out. Yeah, it was harsh. But you've done pretty well for yourself, haven't you? Got your fancy degree, your fancy company, your fancy jet. Maybe you should be thanking Dad for giving you the motivation to succeed instead of holding a grudge. I turned back slowly. Thank him? Thank him for traumatizing his 19-year-old daughter? For making her feel worthless? For teaching her that love is conditional and family is disposable? I'm just saying, it worked out for you. No, Marcus. I worked out for me. Despite Dad, not because of him. I succeeded in spite of the rejection, not thanks to it. And the fact that you think abuse is acceptable if the victim eventually thrives tells me everything I need to know about why we shouldn't have this dinner. I looked at each of them one more time. You want to know why I donated $15 million to this hospital instead of giving you a single penny? Because this hospital will use it to heal people. To train doctors. To advance research that will save lives. That money will matter. It will make a difference. Giving it to you would have accomplished nothing except enabling the same dysfunction that got us here in the first place. That's cold, Marcus said. No, that's strategic. I learned to be strategic the day I realized I couldn't rely on family. It served me well. Caroline appeared at my elbow. Dr. Chen, the car is ready. We need to leave if we're going to make the flight window. I nodded, then looked at my parents one final time. If you want to reach out, you can contact my attorney. Her information is public record. But understand something, I don't need closure from you. I don't need apologies or explanations. I made peace with your choices years ago. This life I've built? It's mine. I earned it. And I'm not interested in sharing it with people who made it clear I wasn't worth their time when I had nothing to offer them. Elena, please, Mom was crying openly now. We love you. We've always loved you. Then you have a very painful way of showing love. And I'm not interested in experiencing it again. I walked to the car. Got in. Drove away. And this time, I didn't look back. 3 weeks later, I was in my Boston office when Caroline knocked on my door. Dr. Chen, there's a situation you should be aware of. I looked up from the grant proposal I was reviewing. What kind of situation? Your father gave an interview to the Mill Creek Tribune. About you. My stomach dropped. Show me. She pulled it up on her tablet. The headline read, Local man's daughter becomes millionaire after family rift. I just want my little girl back. The article was everything I'd feared. Dad painted himself as a struggling business owner who'd made a mistake in a moment of desperation. He talked about how proud he was of my success. How he'd always known I was special. How the family estrangement was the greatest regret of his life. He never mentioned kicking me out. He called it a misunderstanding that got out of hand. He positioned himself as the grieving father desperate to reconnect with his successful daughter who'd moved on to bigger things. The comments section was full of people calling me heartless. Ungrateful. Selfish for not forgiving my, clearly remorseful, father. I closed the tablet and sat back in my chair. What do you want to do? Caroline asked. Nothing. Nothing? Elena, he's controlling the narrative. People are going to think. Let them think whatever they want. I don't owe the internet my trauma. I don't owe strangers an explanation. And I sure as hell don't owe my father a public response that would only give him more attention. But your reputation. My reputation is built on my work, not on whether I have a relationship with my estranged family. The people who matter, the people in my professional life, they know who I am. Random commenters on a local newspaper article? They don't get a vote. Caroline nodded slowly. Okay. But for what it's worth, I think you're handling this with a lot more grace than most people would. I'm handling it the only way I know how. By refusing to engage with people who've proven they'll weaponize anything I give them. But the article had consequences I hadn't anticipated. 2 days later, I got a call from Dr. Helena Voss. Elena, dear, I saw the article about your father. I wanted to check in on you. I'm fine, Dr. Voss. It's just him trying to control the story. I assumed as much. Which is why I wanted you to know that I gave a counter-interview to the Tribune. Told them the truth about what happened 12 years ago. About how you came to me devastated, how your family had disowned you, how you built everything from nothing. I hope that was all right. My throat tightened. You didn't have to do that. Of course I did. I watched you cry in my office when you were 19 years old. I watched you work harder than any student I'd ever seen because you were terrified of ending up back in that house. I watched you transform pain into purpose. No one gets to rewrite that story. Especially not the man who caused the pain in the first place. Thank you, I whispered. You don't thank me, dear. You just keep being the remarkable woman you've become. And you remember that family isn't always the people who share your blood. Sometimes it's the people who show up when blood relatives won't. After we hung up, I sat in my office and cried. Not for my father. Not for what I'd lost. But for what I'd found. For the people like Dr. Voss who'd chosen to be my family when my real family had chosen to walk away. Dr. Voss's interview changed things. Suddenly the narrative shifted. The comment sections filled with people sharing their own stories of family rejection. Of choosing themselves over toxic relatives. Of building lives from ashes. My father didn't give any more interviews after that. But I did get a letter. Handwritten, mailed to my office. Elena. I read what Dr. Voss said. I want you to know she's wrong about some things. I never meant to traumatize you. I never wanted to hurt you. I was desperate and angry and I handled it badly. But I'm not the monster she's making me out to be. You're my daughter. I raised you. I provided for you. I gave you 18 years of my life. Doesn't that count for something? Doesn't that earn me at least a chance to explain? I know you're successful now. I know you don't need me. But I need you. Your mother needs you. We're getting older, Elena. Life is short. Grudges are pointless. Please. Just one dinner. One conversation. Give me a chance to be your father again. Dad. I read it 3 times. Looking for an actual apology. Looking for accountability. Looking for any indication that he understood what he'd done wrong. I found none of it. What I found was blame shifting, minimization, and emotional manipulation. I never meant to, instead of, I'm sorry I did. She's wrong, instead of, I was wrong. Grudges are pointless, instead of, I understand why you're hurt. And that line. I gave you 18 years of my life. As if raising your own child is some kind of favor they owe you for. I wrote back. One sentence. Raising a child isn't an investment you get to cash in on later. It's a responsibility you chose when you became a parent. I owe you nothing. I sent it and felt nothing but relief. 6 months passed. My company launched 2 new products. I gave a TED Talk on innovation in biomedical engineering. I bought a brownstone in Boston and adopted a dog named Tesla. I lived my life. Fully. Completely. Without the weight of wondering if my father was proud of me. Then one evening, Caroline forwarded me an email from an address I didn't recognize. Dr. Chen. You don't know me, but I'm Sarah Brennan, Marcus's girlfriend. I'm reaching out because I think you should know that your father had a stroke last week. He's stable now, but it was serious. Your mom and Marcus have been at the hospital constantly. I know you have a complicated history with your family. Marcus has told me some of it, though I suspect not all. I'm not writing to guilt you or tell you what to do. I just thought you had a right to know. If you want to visit, I can give you the hospital information. If you don't, I completely understand. Either way, I wanted you to have the choice. Take care, Sarah. I stared at the email for an hour. This was it. The moment in every estrangement story where the protagonist rushes to the hospital, where deathbed reconciliations happen, where families heal. But this wasn't a story. This was my life. And rushing to my father's bedside wouldn't change anything. It wouldn't erase 12 years of silence. It wouldn't undo the damage of being thrown away as a teenager. It wouldn't make him suddenly understand what he'd done wrong. It would just be me, once again, putting his needs above my own emotional safety. I wrote back to Sarah. Thank you for letting me know. I hope he recovers fully. But I won't be visiting. My relationship with my father ended 12 years ago. His medical emergency doesn't change that. I wish him well, but from a distance. Please don't share this email with my family. It will only hurt them, and that's not my intention. I'm simply setting a boundary that I should have set years ago. I appreciate you reaching out and giving me the choice. That was kind. Best, Elena. I sent it and waited for the guilt to come. It didn't. What came instead was peace. The peace of knowing I'd made the right choice for me, regardless of what anyone else thought. My father recovered from the stroke. I heard through the grapevine, through Sarah's occasional check-in emails that I appreciated but didn't always respond to. Life went on. His and mine. Separately. And I was okay with that. People sometimes ask me if I regret not reconciling. If I think about what could have been if I'd been the bigger person and forgiven them. The answer is no. Because being the bigger person is code for let people hurt you without consequences. And I'd spent too many years being small to make other people comfortable. My father taught me a valuable lesson that Thanksgiving 12 years ago. He taught me that love can be conditional. That family can be temporary. That the people who are supposed to protect you can hurt you worse than anyone else. But he also taught me something he didn't intend, that I could survive without him. That I could thrive without his approval. That I could build a family of my own choosing, made up of people who showed up, who believed in me, who celebrated my success instead of resenting it. Dr. Voss became the mother figure I'd needed. Caroline became the sister I'd wished for. My colleagues became my brothers. My mentors became my family. And when I walked off that jet in Silverton, when I saw the shock on my father's face, I wasn't doing it to hurt him. I was doing it to remind myself, the girl he threw away became someone extraordinary. Not because of his rejection, but in spite of it. And that girl, now a woman, didn't need him anymore. She never really had. My name is Dr. Elena Donovanchin. I'm 31 years old. I'm worth $340 million. I own a biotech company, sit on 4 boards, and have 17 patents to my name. And the father who kicked me out for saying no? He's a stranger I used to know. And I'm completely at peace with that.